And we're back with Talking Law TV. I'm Michael Short, and we're here with Doug Andrews talking about traffic laws you don't know about. I thought I'd broken most of them. So, what are some of these laws we've never heard of?
Well, before we go there, you've heard the maxim that ignorance is no excuse. We're all presumed to know the law. Well, some of these laws are pretty obscure. Unless you've studied it, you don't know them. But unfortunately, with traffic laws under Title 40 of the Georgia Code, knowledge of the law or knowledge you're committing the crime is not required. Most other crimes require intent, criminal mens rea we call it. But in Georgia, if you didn't see the red light, doesn't matter if you ran it. If you didn't see the stop sign, doesn't matter if you didn't stop. If you didn't stop, it's a crime whether you saw it or not, and that's for public safety reasons. But there are some laws that are fairly vague that are interesting to talk about.
Okay, what's our obscure law number one?
The move-over law. That's people's favorite one now that really upsets people. If an officer has his vehicle off to the side of the road, it has to be stationary, sitting there on the side of the road with lights flashing, amber, yellow, white, red, or blue, and for police cars, usually blue. If his car is stationary and the flashy blue lights are on, if possible, you need to move away from that lane of traffic next to the officer. So if it's a two-lane road, don't ride right beside the police car. Move over. It says if you cannot move over, then bring your vehicle to a reasonable speed, at least less than the speed limit. Well, duh, you should be going less than speed limit anyway. But unless you crawl past that officer, if there's a backup officer, he's coming after you. So for goodness sake, move over early enough that you don't have to hazard somebody in your left lane. So move over and get out the way. But what most people, even those that have been burned one time by that, what most people don't understand is it also applies to tow trucks, it applies to other emergency vehicles, fire trucks, and even highway maintenance vehicles. How many times have you just blown past the guys working on the side of the roadway with yellow lights and not moved over? Well, that's a violation. And of course, our highway workers get killed fairly regularly because they step out in the way of traffic. So move over.
Now, if that's a two-lane country road with a double line, you're supposed to go across the double line?
The statute has exceptions for when you may cross over the line. It's probably not a good idea to do that. It'd be far better to bring your vehicle to a slow speed rather than move over by crossing the lane, because it's double for a reason, hill or curve or obstructed vision. So that might not be a good idea.
And then as far as reasonableness, if you're on Abercorn at 5 o'clock going to Georgetown, there's going to be no way to get over. So what do you...
So I would begin slowing so you don't get rear-ended. Don't slam on your brakes, but begin slowing and get down to about 20 miles an hour past that police car. Anything more than that, they're going to say you weren't being very careful of their safety.
Okay. What's next?
Cutting corners. If you come up to a red light and there's a string of cars there and you don't feel like waiting, so you cut through the convenience store or you go through a shopping center just to avoid the red light, that's cutting corners. You can get a ticket for that. Coasting. If you're going down a hill, you cannot put the clutch in and coast or put it in neutral. That's a crime.
Get out.
You cannot coast. Gotcha. Come across, and I had a case like this. There was a fire on one of the areas of the squares downtown, and my client drove over the fire hose. Well, he didn't see any reason not to. Nobody was flagging him down or nothing, so he just blump, blump, went over the fire hose. That's a crime. You cannot drive over an unprotected fire hose unless a person directs you to do so. Of course, now in my client's case, he got hung up on the fire hose, drug it for about 300 yards, because then he was charged with DUI as well. But that's a whole separate issue. Don't cross over fire hoses. How many times do you see a pickup truck going down the roadway with McDonald's or other trash blowing out the back, coffee cups or wrappers? That's a crime. That is a form of littering. You don't have to throw it out your window. If you put it in the bed of your pickup truck and it blows out, if it's trash or rubbish, that's what litter is, it's going to be subject to you getting stopped and getting a ticket for that. Here's one that catches people: obstructing an intersection. So you're going along Duren and you come to Habersham, and you're going to try and make that intersection, or better yet, Abercorn and Duren, and you're going to go across it, and there's backed up traffic, so you go 3/4 of the way and you get stuck because those cars have stopped. You've broken the law if you obstruct that intersection. You're not allowed to, by the statute, enter the intersection at all, regardless of what the traffic light says, even if it's green. You cannot enter the intersection until you're confident that there is sufficient room on the other side of the intersection for you to clear that intersection. If you get stuck in the middle, they're going to charge you with obstructing traffic.
Okay. That one makes sense. I'm still lost on coasting.
Okay. What else? Let's talk about motorcycles for just a second. How many motorcycle riders can ride side by side or abreast of each other legally in Georgia?
2.
2, that's right. So 2 may ride abreast of each other, but not 3, just 2. And I remember when I rode motorcycle in Atlanta through 3 years of law school. The joy of a motorcycle, especially in Atlanta, was traffic is all backed up, so you just ride between the lanes of traffic. It's just, well, that's a crime. You can't ride between lines of traffic that are moving or lines of vehicles that are stopped. You can't go down the middle of them.
Now, I was surprised by that because I was in California and I was sitting in traffic, and here come these bikes racing through traffic. I was like, you can't do that. And it's like the person I was with, oh, yeah, they can.
So, yeah, and it also says you can't go through rows of vehicles, so you couldn't go sideways across them, whatever, so you want to get over somewhere else. That's not legal either. Those are, another biggie. In front of the Best Buy, there's those large gores on Abercorn. Gores are those marked areas with cross-hatching. Right. You're not allowed really for your tires to touch those things, so you shouldn't legally cross the gore to change lanes. You have to wait till you're past that intersection or that area.
I have a pet peeve about, not those, but the ones next to handicap spaces. They have those, I guess they're called the gores, the stripes, and people will park their motorcycles there. And those are for ramps for handicapped people, and I just want to kick their bikes over.
Well, it may or may not be a good idea, unless you're packing.
Yeah.
The last one we'll talk about is if there's a center lane designed for turning vehicles in either direction, you pull that center lane to make a left or turn. You cannot use that to come from a side street, go into the center lane, and then wait for traffic to come by and go out. That's a violation. You can only use that center lane if you're going to make a turn left from that center lane, because you've been going that way and you're going to turn left. And you can't enter that center turn lane sooner than 300 feet, or that's a violation. So do you need a lawyer for these violations?
I'm going to ask.
Yes.
Do I need a lawyer?
You do, unless you want points. So what if you get points? Take a defensive driving course, it takes off up to 7 points. And you probably need it.
I need to coast to get there.
That's right.
Okay, anything else?
We're done.
Okay. We'll be back with Christy Redgers talking about how bankruptcy can help right after this.